Okay, so let's get right into it. We now have the power to edit the very code of life itself, DNA. And this incredible power, it's pushing humanity towards two radically different futures, and it's happening at the exact same time. So, on one hand, you've got these absolute medical miracles. I mean, there's a therapy called Casgevy that's actually curing people of sickle cell disease, a painful genetic condition they were born with. It's a total game changer. But then, on the other hand, you have the story of a scientist who went rogue and secretly created the world's first gene-edited babies. This sparked global outrage, and yeah, he ended up in prison. So you see, it's promise and peril, right there, side by side.
So you have to ask, right? How can the same technology be both a celebrated cure and a criminal act? Well, it all boils down to one single critical distinction. And this one difference, it changes everything. The ethics, the law, and yeah, the entire future of our species. Okay, so first up, we've got something called somatic gene editing. This is basically a personal medical treatment. The sickle cell cure we talked about, that's a perfect example. Doctors go in, they edit a patient's cells to treat their disease. The analogy here is great. It's like fixing a typo in just one single printed copy of a book. The change is only in that one copy. It's not passed on to anyone else. It's an incredibly powerful form of medicine for sure, but it stops with that one individual.
And then there's the other kind, germline gene editing. This is what that scientist in China did. See, by editing an embryo, he made changes that are going to be passed down through every single generation that follows. The analogy here is totally different. It's like changing the master file at the publisher. Now, every copy printed from then on is altered. This isn't about one person anymore. This permanently, forever changes the human gene pool.
And, this is where the really massive ethical questions come crashing in. I mean, think about it. Who gives consent for all of their future descendants? Nobody can, right? And what if there's a mistake in the edit, what scientists call an off-target mutation, and that mistake gets passed down forever? And then there's the big one. Does this crack open the door to a new kind of social divide? A world of so-called designer babies just for the rich?
Yeah, that last fear, the whole idea of designing our children, that's exactly why this conversation gets so loaded, so intense. This isn't just some sci-fi hypothetical we're talking about. It's deeply, deeply rooted in a really dark chapter of our own history. The moment you hear the word eugenics, your mind probably jumps to the horrors of the 20th century, right? We're talking about state-run programs, forced sterilizations, these awful policies of racial hygiene, and all of it was aimed at controlling who gets to have children for the so-called good of the state. This dark, dark history created a deep and frankly a completely justified fear of any attempt to control human evolution. But here's the thing. The debate today looks really different. We're not talking about some totalitarian state forcing this on people. Nope. Instead, the concern is about what some are calling private eugenics. It's this idea that you could get to the same place through the collective result of thousands and thousands of individual, private choices, parents who just want the best for their kids. It's a huge shift from state control to the free market. Okay, so that history, it totally explains why we're so nervous about this stuff. But let's try a thought experiment. Let's just set the fear aside for a moment. Imagine we could use this technology safely and ethically. What should we even be aiming for? Like, what's the actual goal when we say we want to give our kids the best start in life? So I'm asking you, if you could choose, what would your goal be? Well, one of the most popular ideas to come out of bioethics for a long time has been this: give our children the widest possible set of choices for their lives. This concept has a name. It's called the right to an open future. And the thinking goes something like this. We should enhance our kids in ways that maximize their opportunities, that give them the most possible choices in life. And I mean, that sounds great in theory, doesn't it? The problem is, in practice, this simple idea, it runs into some pretty serious problems pretty fast.
For starters, is more always better? I mean, think about it. A supermarket with a bunch of good, different options is way better than one that just has 100 varieties of toothbrushes and nothing else. And then you have choices that are mutually exclusive. The genes that might help you be a great jockey are pretty much the opposite of the ones you'd want to be a great basketball player. But maybe most important of all, good parenting isn't just about opening doors. It's also about closing the bad ones, right? We actively guide our kids away from things that are dangerous or just a waste of their potential.
So all of this leads to a different idea. An alternative. Instead of a maximally open future, maybe the goal should be what bioethicist Robert Sparrow calls a decent future.
And the key difference here is that it's not about having the most choices. It's about having a reasonable range of valuable choices. You know, the kinds of options that actually lead to a good, flourishing human life.
Okay, so given all this mind-bending complexity, what are the actual rules on the ground? Right now, today, where has the world drawn the line on this incredibly powerful technology?
Well, believe it or not, the scientific community itself has pretty much hit the pause button. They were really alarmed by the idea of more rogue scientists just forging ahead, so some of the biggest names in the field called for a 10-year global moratorium on using germline editing to actually make a baby. The goal is simple: create some breathing room. A whole decade for us, the public, to debate this, and for ethicists to weigh in before anyone even thinks about taking that irreversible step again.
And you know what? This moratorium lines up with the law almost everywhere. Just take a look at the laws around the world. You'll see something really striking. Yeah, the rules on lab research kind of vary from country to country, but there is a near universal red line. From the UK all the way to China, it is flat out prohibited or even criminalized to implant a genetically modified embryo to start a pregnancy. For now, that is the line in the sand. That's the line that cannot be crossed. But the thing is, this technology is moving at a breakneck pace, way, way faster than our ability to agree on the ethics. And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? If we're going to try and aim for a decent future for all the generations that come after us, in a world that's filled with so many different cultures and so many different values, who gets to decide what decent actually means? That, right there, is the conversation we all need to be having.